Welcome to Art with Mrs. Cat. So today we're going to be looking at early American folk art. So American folk art spans from the 18th century, which is the 1700s, to present day. We will be focusing on early American folk art, just because that's kind of where it fits in the chronology of what we're studying in this course. But we'll be looking at early American folk art primarily from the 1700s. We'll dabble in the 1800s a little bit. And we'll be looking at kind of the beginning stages of this style of art. So with American folk art, there are typically four universal themes that can be found in this style of art. The first one is utility. The second one's community. Third is individuality. And fourth is symbolism. And we're going to take a look at those in detail. So utility. The earliest works that we now term folk art were typically very utilitarian. So they were items that basically met, the basic demands of daily life. They weren't really created just for art, but they had a utility. They had a purpose to them beyond just being art. These pieces include objects such as furniture, household, items that were then embellished with paintings or carvings that also served a functional purpose, like protecting the wood surface. So instead of leaving a wooden piece of furniture, just bare, they would paint it and cover it in a paint to protect it, kind of like stain and varnish and things that we do to furniture even today. They would do this, and so it was decorative, but it also served a functional purpose. Decorations might reflect the sharing of cultural ideas, prevailing trends, and availability of materials. So they would visualize the creative desires of the maker, and then they elevated everyday objects into works of art. The idea of utility is often associated with traditional folk art forms, but 20th and 21st century works demonstrate the endurance of utility as an impulse for creative expression. So even though the beginning of this style was utilitarian and very much that function and form and function over creativity and artistry, it still survives as a creative expression even to this day with all the developments of technology. Communities. So this is the second theme of American folk art. So communities are formed through a variety of circumstances where common connections may be made, of time, place, belief, experience. All these things come together to create a community. In folk art, these connections that create community and the sense of it are seen in a wide range of objects that emerge that show this shared system that shapes the community. These expressions may show a common cultural heritage, such as like the decorative arts of the Pennsylvania Germans. Meanwhile, some art emerges from institutional environments such as prisons and schools, while others may indicate a national sense of community and demonstrate an awareness for popular culture and contemporary issues. Individuality. So this is our third theme that we see in American folk art. So folk art is a valuable method for reinforcing conventions, but it also provides a powerful platform for individual expression. Some see it to be, the work of contemporary self-taught artists that is the most individualistic, but the reality is that individuality is found in the personal signature that every artist brings to their work, even when creating within a conventional form, tradition, or medium. At the time, at times the singular voice is expressed through a sense of whimsy or a highly developed aesthetic identity. Other works reveal a distinctive sensibility that is derived from an artist's strong personal convictions or visions. and from a life that is lived in, or from a life that is lived in isolation. Symbolism. So this is the last of these themes that we're looking at. Some of the most visually impactful examples of folk art are those that speak through symbolic language. In these artworks, symbols are used as shorthand for revealing complex meanings through a graphic representation. As you can see in the work, behind me there, that is a Masonic work of art that has a lot of symbols that we see with the Freemasons and so forth. So the use of symbols can be inclusive, expressing a widely recognized idea or experience, or it can be exclusionary, as in, using obscure symbolic systems of secret societies such as the Freemasons. When the symbols pass from common usage and they, or they stem from a personal vision, we no longer understand, the key to their original meaning. We lack being able to understand the true intent. And then these works become mysterious and they become subject to new interpretations based on our, how we see them. All right, so this, we're gonna be doing a tinsel painting project with this unit. And so we're going to look at what tinsel painting is. It is a form of American folk art. So American folk art, tinsel painting, you can see some examples in an exhibit in that photo on the screen. So tinsel painting is a decorative art style that became popular in the United States between 1850 and 1890. Young women in particular learned the art of tinsel painting at like girls' schools, or from women's magazines that advertised mail order kits. Many of the paintings are of vases of flowers. Tinsel paintings were created by painting flowers on the rear side of a piece of glass, with some areas left transparent. The background around the flowers was often painted black, also on the back of the glass. And then metallic foil or tinsel was then applied to the back. The artworks are viewed through the front of the glass, and we see this kind of mirror image of what was painted. When viewed by candlelight, the paintings reflect shimmering highlights off of the foil, which was sometimes repurposed food package wrapping. So in our project, we're actually going to use aluminum foil for this. And then the paintings were typically placed in dining rooms, and many of these artworks are actually not signed. And if you're interested in seeing more about that, there's a link that you can go to at the American Folk Art Museum that you can go visit and see a little bit more about this style of painting. Okay, so with our project this week, it is my tinsel painting project. And so you will be creating your very own American folk art inspired tinsel painting. So be sure to check out Canvas and the project details for more information. There are 2 ways to do this project. In the demo, I use a Ziploc bag instead of glass because I wanted to make sure I used materials that you guys probably had, in your kitchen and on hand and so forth. But the preferred way and the preferred method to do this is to do it in the traditional style on glass. So if you wanted to go to like the dollar store or a thrift store and get a frame, you would just pull the glass out of that and you would paint on that instead of painting on the Ziploc bag. But then you would basically follow the same steps, but you would paint on glass instead of a Ziploc bag. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to reach out and I will see you in class. Bye.